On December 27, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
This is the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Monday, October 2nd. I'm Donal Ware. We are close to about halfway through the HBCU football season. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, and thank you for your patience with us here on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. I had some challenges on last week, and so I'm back this week for the duration of this week, bringing you the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. Let those that you know that are interested in HBCU football that we're back and to watch the HBCU Football Daily Podcast on the BOXTOROW YouTube channel, as well as listen on BOXTOROW.com. Week 5 of the HBCU football season had a lot of close games, a lot of comeback from behind victories, a lot of excitement this week in week 5 of HBCU football. Maybe perhaps the most exciting week of HBCU football so far. We'll get things kicked off. Florida A&M, who again is number 1 in the HBCU media poll, defeated Mississippi Valley State 31-7. Things continue to be tough for the Delta Devils. I mean, you didn't think they would get any easier this week necessarily against a really good Florida A&M football team. Tuskegee, first loss of the season, overwhelmed by Alabama A&M, 58-3. That's a good Tuskegee team that Alabama A&M got that big time or big victory over. It was Alcorn State in overtime with a field goal over Alabama State, 23-20. First SWAC win of the season for the Braves. In the State Fair Classic, Grambling 35, Prairie View A&M 20. So Prairie View A&M, we talked about this on either Takeaway Tuesday last week or the Manic Monday edition of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. Well, Prairie View A&M was 2 up on everybody, not so fast. 1 up really, but not 2 up because they had played a couple of games, but SWAC games, but not so fast. Grambling State is now 2-0 in conference play, and I believe I'm trying to think. Let's see, Texas Southern, Prairie View. I think Southern hasn't lost at least a division game. So right now, Grambling and Southern lead the Western Division, and Grambling State is 2-0. Matter of fact, the Tigers have won 3 straight ball games, and getting some good play from the quarterback, Miles Crawley. Speaking of Southern, all over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 27-0. As mentioned, Southern now 2-0 in conference play. Texas Southern all over Lincoln of California, 52-7. First victory of the season for the Tigers. In what I'm sure is a thriller. It was all over Sports Center. It was North Carolina Central, 49. Campbell, 48 in overtime. So the Eagles avenged last year's loss to the Camels. And by the way, the MEAC has had a lot of success against teams from the CAA this year. Speaking of CAA and MEAC matchups, North Carolina A&T holds on for its first victory of the season, 28-26 over Norfolk State. Norfolk State drove late in the game, scored a touchdown, needed a 2-point conversion. The 2-point conversion was knocked down by B.J. Turner, and then A&T proceeded to run out the clock on a 3rd down play, got a big run from Kenji Christian, the running backs of Virginia Tech transfer, and he had over 100 yards. The freshman quarterback KJ White, true freshman playing in Norfolk, he is from Newport News, rushed for over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns in that Aggie victory. It was Howard over Robert Morris, 35-10. Morgan State has now lost 4 in a row, falling to Yale, 45-3. Delaware State gets its first victory of the season, defeating Virginia Lynchburg 48-10. Hampton with a nice victory, 31-14 over Richmond. And so for Hampton gets its first CAA victory of the season. Tennessee State losing its first OBC or Big South OBC matchup 20-10 to UT Martin, a traditional OBC team. Fayetteville State has made it 3 in a row, now also 3-0 in the CIAA with a 28-18 victory over Bluefield State. The way that Fayetteville State is getting it done is from the defensive side of the football and also being able to run the football as well, although the offense today or on Saturday didn't run it necessarily well. That Fayetteville State defense has really, and special teams, has really gotten the job done. Arkansas Baptist remains winless on the season, falling to Texas Wesleyan 62-0. It was Miles getting back in the win column, but now 3-0 in conference play, 40-7 over Central State. In another thriller, Johnson C. Smith comes from behind late in the ball game to get a touchdown, defeats Elizabeth City State 21-20. Don't look now, but Johnson C. Smith is 3-0 in CIAA play. Albany State got off to the slow start on the season, has now won its last 3 ball games, this time 33-27 over Kentucky State. In another thriller, coming down to the end, Lincoln of Pennsylvania defeats Winston-Salem State 30-27. It is the Rams' first CIAA loss and also Lincoln's first CIAA victory of the season. Virginia Union all over St. Augustine's 47-7. St. Augustine's remains winless on the season. Virginia State over Shaw 38-19. Virginia State remains undefeated. West Virginia State overwhelms West Virginia Wesleyan 51-16. I keep saying this week in and week out. West Virginia State, the real deal, now 4-0 in the Mountain East Conference, and winners of the Yellow Jackets, winners of their last 3 ball games, dropped. Remember a game the game they dropped was to an FCS opponent. The opponent is escaping me right now, but watch out again for West Virginia State. It was Lane over Clark Atlanta 34-24. Langston has now made it a couple of wins here on the season, and 2-1 in the Sooner Athletic Conference, 45-21 over Southwestern Assemblies of God. Livingstone gets its first victory of the season, 31-18 over Bowie State. It was Texas College, so close. I had a chance to watch clips or the end of the Texas College and North American game. Texas College had some opportunities at the end. It had 4 opportunities with a first and goal situation to win that football game. Couldn't get it done, falling to North American 30-26. Fort Valley State has made it 4 in a row, 49-21 to Allen, who drops its first game of the season. Benedict continues to roll. It may not be pretty, but all wins are good wins. As Rod Broadway used to say, the head football coach at North Carolina A&T Grambling and North Carolina Central, Benedict defeated Morehouse 27-3. In another thriller, Edward Waters comes from behind to defeat Savannah State 26-25 in Savannah. Boy, Lincoln of Missouri continues to struggle again. As I keep saying each and every week, not playing an MIAA schedule, but not a member of the MIAA, transitioning to the Great Lakes Conference, Great Lakes Valley Conference on next year. But boy, fell to Fort Hays State 71-3. My goodness. And Florida Memorial defeated Ave Maria 56-13. For all of these scores, you can log on to the BOXTOROW.com website. Depending upon when you're seeing this podcast or listening to this podcast, we will have the HBCU National Players of the Week posted to BOXTOROW.com, as well as the HBCU coaches and media polls. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. Watch on the BOXTOROW YouTube channel, as well as on BOXTOROW.com and iHeartMedia.com. Got a lot of things I really want to talk about on tomorrow. Is Takeaway Tuesday, including the success that the MEAC is having against the CAA. We'll touch on some other topics of conversation tomorrow on Takeaway Tuesday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. Talk with you then.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at BOXTOROW.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on BOXTOROW with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BOXTOROW for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.